Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by Grimey.
Absolutely. We're here. We're back, and we're talking more spooky. Ooh.
Ooh, I like that, Grimey. Really setting the tone there. There you go.
I'm trying my best, breaking out of my box a little bit.
I looked over my shoulder. I thought there was some, what is it? That sound, traveling sound shit that you get where it sounds like there's a ghost on the left side, and then it travels to the...
It's actually over the other side. No, man, you just got Pee Wee Herman back there, and that's it.
It's just Pee Wee. What is it? Binaural sounds? Is that what that's called?
Oh, man. No idea. I have no clue.
There you go. But yeah, we're not talking about my stupid sound nonsense here and you creeping me out with your woo there in the beginning. We're talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. First time ever here at Haunted Hangover.
I can't believe that we're diving in. I just want to stop and just thank you really quick, because in my show, I have to refrain from talking about TMNT because I could go off on TMNT almost the entire show. So I try my best to not pick a TMNT thing for each show nowadays. But we've never went and do it here. So
no,
be prepared.
And I'll be honest, the reason why is because I feel like, especially in the nostalgia community, TMNT has heavily been covered to death.
Like crazy.
Yes.
Yeah,
we all love the action figures. We all love the TV show from the 80s, the late 80s. We all love the movies, or at least the first two. Even though I did like the last one, the Mutant Mayhem. I was a big fan of that.
Mayhem? Yeah, it's good, man.
I've even got a soft spot for those live action ones that came out with Megan Fox. There's certain aspects of that second one I really like. I'm not going to front.
Yeah, it's just you then.
I think I'm in the minority in that one. There was aspects of that was almost like, and I'm not going to get into it because that'll be maybe for another day. There were aspects of that were kind of like the old cartoon brought to life, which I give you that. I could appreciate, but that will be for another day. Grimey, I know again you are a massive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. So am I. We both probably grew up watching the same shit. It's safe to say, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're around the same age. So yeah, cartoons, maybe a little bit of Nintendo games, what have you. Sure, we've all been there.
I will say it's a safe bet though. And I think it's been confirmed. You are more of a collector of TMNT stuff than I am.
Oh, yeah, man. And I don't have to go far. It's my whole room's just covered in TMNT. You can actually see in the video if you're watching the YouTube. These are all turtle figures up here and Ghostbusters and stuff like that, but mostly turtles, yeah. You
are a massive TMNT collector. Very casual. I have some stuff. I've got some old figures. I've got some newer stuff. I definitely bought one of the re-releases of the big, 12-inch re-release of the giant size figure. If I see certain things, I'll grab it, but I don't go crazy because then I will just lose my mind. Wanting to be obsessive collecting these items. But I do, frequent the old show a lot, the old movies. And I always get excited anytime there's something new TMNT related. And that leads me to what we're talking about in this episode, which is something we mentioned last year. I believe it was the first anticipated 2023 Halloween items episode we did together. I think it was the first one. I might be wrong.
It might have been,
yes. And that was the TMNT Halloween special comic. Now,
absolutely.
You told me about this. I did not know this was going to be a thing until you mentioned it to me.
Man, this was big on my list too. Obviously, being a huge TMNT fan collector, when this, and we'll get into it a little bit more later. When we figured out what it was going to be about, who was going to be involved, this was number one on my list for most of the month of September and October, and maybe even August a little bit. I can't remember when it was announced, but yeah, this is a big deal for me for sure.
And even me, who I'd say casual comic, I do have a collection. It's not, I don't got fucking 5,000 organized comics with back and boards, but I have
he doesn't have the long boxes or
so
nothing at his house.
I have about one long box worth of comics.
Oh, you have a long box?
One.
No shit.
One single long box with comics in it. That's about it. And a lot of my comics are really old, obviously horror and Halloween stuff because that's my interest. And I will admit, not a single TMNT comic in the collection.
Oh.
Do you collect the TMNT comics?
Oh, dude, yeah, I have pretty much the whole IDW run up until they're closing now with 150, which is the longest running series. But I have a whole bunch of the old Mirage comics too. Well, we can. Oh my god! Like I said, I could talk about this for hours. Yeah, let's just say I have like 3 or 4 long boxes full of comics, and a majority of them are TMNT.
So we can all see where Grimey's fandom is when it comes to right there.
Yes, sir, man.
You've got so you've got the entire run of that. Wow, sick. That's sick, dude. We're definitely gonna again. My plan, and you know, this is kind of the inaugural TMNT episode for Haunted Hangover. My plan is to definitely do a couple more TMNT related things in the world. Because TMNT, listen, outside of this comic, there is other Halloween and spooky, you know, stuff they've done with the characters. And, you know, Universal Monsters, probably on the top of the list with something they've done since we're covering the Universal Monster movies. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind are those figures. And we also mentioned, I believe it was in one of those episodes as well, the new Universal Monster figures for
NECA's been all over them.
The NECA Universal Monster TMNT kind of new iteration of those figures. So there's a lot of spooky shit. But when you told me about this comic, I too was excited, and I told myself, yeah, I don't go out of my way to get comics that often, but this was one I had to have. I had to have at least one cover. I think I said it in the episode. I was like, I don't know if I'll go out of my way to get all 6 because we did go through all 6 covers, but at least get one of them. And there was one I think we both agreed was our favorite of the bunch, and it was. Now, I'm jumping the gun here because I'm about to spoil.
It's so hard not to.
I know. I'm spoiling the cover I have. How many of the covers did you buy? How many did you purchase?
I only purchased 2, and I think one of them is one that you might have in front of you.
Yes.
I bought 2. I bought the A and I bought the B cover.
Now, we'll do a quick recap because we went through this in the episode that we did, talking about all the covers. But to my knowledge, there's 5 or 6 from what I remember. Right?
Don't quote me. Yeah, it's in somewhere in that wheelhouse, either 5 or 6. But
I have them in front
they're all
of me.
very excellent covers for sure.
You've got the kind of sugar skull turtle.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch.
That was a nice touch. You've got the I'm calling it the trick-or-treaters cover, where the turtles are wearing costumes and there's a group of trick-or-treaters in front of them dressed up as the turtles. You've got the trick-or-treating turtles harassing Shredder cover. And then you've got the turtles being attacked by these floating head demons, it looks like. In one of them.
They're kind of strange. I don't really know what that's all about. But it's a pretty cool cover. That's the cover A. It's pretty sweet.
And then the final one, or there is one more I want to mention because we didn't mention it on our episode talking about this comic in the anticipated Halloween items for 2023. There's the one that I think is our favorite is the Creepy Eddie cover.
Yes.
Which we even said in our episode, we were hoping he was actually involved in the storyline of the comic and not just because it's kind of hard to tell by looking at these covers. You're like, what the fuck is this Halloween special about?
Dude, 90% of the time the cover has nothing to do with the actual contents of the book. So we lucked out this time.
We definitely did because that was a concern. We were like, shit, is he actually like the focal point of what the turtles deal with in this special? And lo and behold, he was. Creepy Eddie, our boy.
It only took like 30 years to get him back, but he's here. It's very exciting, and I'm really hoping this becomes like an annual thing, but we'll see.
Yeah, I hope so too, because Creepy Eddie needs a little more love in the TMNT
Dude,
universe.
So underutilized. Such an awesome character. And I understand why to an extent, but like, I don't know. He's in comic form right now. So you got to you can't tell me that there's no way they can get around this, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think, and the way, you know, and we're going to get into what Creepy Eddie is. We haven't even, for the listeners that maybe aren't familiar, because there might be people that don't know who the fuck is Creepy Eddie. Number one, why is he creepy? Because I don't think anyone wants to be named Creepy Eddie. That just sounds like someone you want to stay away from. And the Turtles do want to stay away from him. But yeah, I was happy to see that he was front and center as the cover leads you to believe. He is the main focus of one of the two stories featured in the comic. Now, there is one more cover that we didn't mention in the episode when we brought this comic up, and that's the Universal Monsters variant that I believe was exclusive to Comic-Con. Am I correct, Grimey?
It wasn't exclusive to Comic-Con, I don't think. It was whoever actually makes that cover.
Okay.
It was their version specifically, so they sold it through via website, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember, but you had the choice to buy it graded or ungraded, and they also had what you call a virgin variant, where it doesn't have like the title on the front. It's just artwork and no title. So there's two different versions of it. It's. Man, some of the variants, it's very hard to figure out exactly where they're coming from, how to get them, and this is one of them.
Oh, dude, this one's so sick. You got all four turtles
sick,
like as their 90s Universal monster, like monster counterparts, literally identical to the figures. Sitting in some ooze with pumpkins floating in the sewer, bats kind of scattering behind them. So sick, dude.
It's a badass cover. And they actually did, and I know we talked about it off air, but they did one for, I want to say 2021 or maybe 2022, that they did something very similar with the same exact counterparts. I was really hoping that this one, if they would have done it, they would have done the second half, because there's two different versions of the Universal Monsters figures from back in the day of Playmates, and but I guess the later half wouldn't work because they have April instead of Donnie for that second batch of characters. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of the This Island Earth Raphael figure, which I don't want to dive into those too much yet, because I can see us doing an episode in the future talking about the TMNT Universal Monster. Considering that we are covering all those movies, it would make sense,
absolutely,
Grimey.
Man. So you just want to jump in and talk about Creepy Eddie, where he came from, who he is?
Yeah. Talk about our boy Creepy Eddie, who's right here.
Hell yeah, man.
There he is.
It's such an awesome cover. I love it. It's very Halloween-y. I love the jack-o'-lantern, him coming up out of it, kind of. And the jack-o'-lantern faces in the background. Just, it's an awesome cover. This is the one I was most excited to own. But yeah, Creepy Eddie, so he is in the original Fred Wolf cartoons from the late 80s, early 90s. He appears in the episode, it's season 6, episode 9, titled Nightmare in the Lair. So it's, nice little play on Nightmare on Elm Street. So Donatello invents this headset device called the Dreamo-Vision. And this turns your thoughts and your imaginations into a 3D hologram. So long story short, I don't want to ruin it because, like you said, we're going to eventually talk about this episode. But this device malfunctions somehow, and Michelangelo and Leo get stuck in this dream world. It's actually Nightmare Land, they call it. And this character, Creepy Eddie, is transported in the real world, and he terrorizes Don, Raph, and Splinter. And Creepy Eddie, he's just kind of this like ghostly entity. He has like his body comes to a point, and he's pretty much this like spitting image of Freddy minus the glove. He has like this top hat, and he does this pose. Like his mannerisms are very Freddy-esque, where he does what I like to call the T-Rex pose, where his arms are very close to his body, and he kind of drapes his hands over into claws and stuff. And he's got the gray and red jumper on. It's just and his voice in the cartoon's very grisly too.
Yeah.
So it's you know what they're going for. They're not hiding it.
It's funny because usually whenever you see a Freddy ripoff, the sweater's never spot on, but in this case, the sweater is legitimately like it's red. Like even looking at this cover, it's like an off red and an off green. Like there's no denying what inspired Creepy Eddie. You know, like that's kind of. And there's a lot of bootleg Freddy Kruegers, which would also be a great episode in the future. But I think this guy would be really high on the list for bootleg Freddys from other things. He almost looks like a character that would appear on real Ghostbusters, like his design.
Totally.
And
dude, absolutely. And I'm surprised that this made it into the TMNT realm, I guess. Yeah. And I'm also surprised they didn't get in trouble for it. But they did only use him for one episode, and he never appeared again. He was never made into an action figure or anything like that until this comic book.
I think the parody law helped him out because if you look at him, he's not burned. He doesn't have the claw, and his hat is on like an odd job. I don't know what you call it.
Like a top hat.
Yeah, it's like a top hat almost, but a little more.
Yeah, it's not a fedora.
Yeah. So he and listen, man, with parody, you can get away with a lot as long as you're not flat out saying he's Freddy Krueger. If they would have called him Creepy Freddy, they probably would have been sued.
That would have probably.
Yeah. So they called him Creepy Eddie. Close enough. Parody, man, listen, parody law lets you get away with a lot of stuff as long as you're making fun and joking, towards that, like making fun of that real character, then you get away with it, which is what they did. And I feel like that happened a lot back in the day. And it still happens now because you got, Scary Terry on Rick and Morty.
Yeah, Rick and Morty,
so, who I think he's even, like, he looks even closer to the real Freddy Krueger than...
He does, yeah.
Than Scary Eddie does, so...
I have him floating above my head up here on my shelf, too.
Bitch, everything is...
Oh, bitch.
Bitch. There's no bitch from Creepy Eddie, unfortunately.
That would have just been the cream on top, man.
Yes, exactly. He's a very PG version, not even a P, he's a G version of Freddy Krueger. Did he ever get a figure?
No, never.
Crazy.
No figure. Not yet.
Yeah, dude.
Let's just say that. I'm sure it's coming. It has to be. I would kill for a fucking Creepy Eddie figure. Like, there's no reason not to make him.
And if they make one, they've got to make, like as much as NECA does a fantastic job, they've got to make a retro-style Mattel. Was it Mattel or Kenner? Mattel, right? That made the original line of TMNT figures.
So, Playmates,
not Mattel.
Playmates did them.
Kenner was Ghostbusters, right? I think, if I remember correctly.
Kenner was definitely. They did Ghostbusters and some a bunch of other stuff actually.
A Playmate figure of, like, in that style of Creepy, like a retro nostalgia based figure. I
can see it.
That would
honestly,
be sick.
It just seems like the job for Super 7 because they went in, and I don't know if you really keep up with them much, but they did they're doing currently a whole run of like figures that are based on old Playmates toys, just pretty much just like souping them up so they have like better articulation. They just look a lot nicer. The sculpts come with multiple heads. Prime contender for a Creepy Eddie figure for sure.
Who's re-releasing the old figures right now? Like, I bought a Shredder recently. It's Playmates. Okay.
They're very bad at giving the fans exactly what they want, but they're progressively getting a little bit better, I think. Mm-hmm. There's one that's coming out that I won't get into too much detail, but it's like a comic version, and they're pretty famous for doing a comic version that doesn't look anything like the comics. And this one is spot on, so like I'm really excited about that. But that'd be cool if they did it. If someone does it and does it justice, it's fine, no matter who.
I definitely, I bought the Shredder figure. I was at, I think, a Target, and I saw it there. It was like $10. I was like, I never had the Shredder figure as a kid. I always wanted. I had Super Shredder, which I have one over there. It's right there, but I'm not gonna grab it. I'll knock everything over. But I remember having the Super Shredder, but never having the like skinny anorexic version with the fabric cape.
Oh yeah, the very Motu looking fucking figure. Yeah,
so he was
very strange figure for that line.
He's blue, I think. Like his armor's blue, like a turquoise kind of like bluish color. I never had him, so a small part of me was like, let me buy him. He's $10, whatever. Yeah. Just buy him and have him sitting there. But yeah, I really hope Creepy Eddie gets one because and if they do. I get, what is it? What did you call that company? Super Saiyan? What is it called?
Super 7.
Super 7. Super Saiyan. That's
Super
Dragon
Saiyan.
Ball Z, I think.
It's definitely.
Yeah. If they made one, that'd be really cool. But even if Playmates had their own kind of that style of Creepy Eddie, I think that'd be cool too. As long as he gets a figure,
cool.
Almost like the figure that never was. That's what I would take that as.
That's honestly the route I want them to go. Just give us stuff that they haven't, that there wasn't a plans or something. But anyway.
Yeah, anyway, moving on. Let's dive into the actual
synopsis.
Yeah, let's dive into the actual breakdown of the comic itself. Looking at the cover, what they're calling this, Saturday Morning Adventures, because again, it's in the realm of the old cartoon, which I'm assuming not every comic from IDW with Ninja Turtles is in this realm.
This one's the only one that's really it's not even loosely based. They pull everything from the cartoon series in this, which is awesome. And this is an ongoing series. This particular book is just kind of a one-off aside from the second story. You have to do some reading before to see what exactly is going on there, but we're not going to do that. No, obviously. But this one, it's a nice little one-off Halloween special. It fits really, really well.
Yeah, and the art style is literally lifted. And it's a little, and I will be honest, when you look at the two stories, there is a difference. Even though they're the same characters from the animated series from the 80s, but there is a slight difference in the way they're drawn, which I do like. And it makes sense because the stories are two different experiences with the Turtles and my favorite couple ever, Krang and Shredder. So my favorite, those guys are lovers, man. I don't care what they say.
Have to be, man.
Yes, that's what they are. They're like a bickering married couple, Krang and Shredder. That's what I've always loved about the old cartoon with those two. I'm a huge... I always loved the Turtles, but when it came to the old animated series, even when I was a kid, I loved Shredder, dude, and Krang.
Oh, you were a Shredder fan?
I was a huge Krang, and I loved Krang and Shredder. I loved the body. I don't know what it was. I was more drawn to them, and obviously Bebop and Rocksteady and all that, but, it was a villain kid. I guess that's the horror fan.
I get that,
in
man.
Me, Obviously,
and the Turtles are great, but the thing is that they have so many villains, and they're all really cool and easily collectible. My whole wall is filled with just TMNT villains from Playmates toys back in the day, and none of them are boring.
No, and dare I say, the Turtles have probably just as many iconic villains as Batman. It's just so many.
If not more.
I can't even think of another kind of group of heroes. I don't even think the fucking Avengers have this many iconic villains. Comparing them to the Ninja Turtles. There's just so many. So many come to mind from the TV show and from the, I guess, comics even. I know some of those reported over. Just so many, dude. And when you're, looking at this comic itself, I'm glad that they took one story to focus on two of the villains that the Turtles battled. It's safe to say Krang and Shredder are the epitome.
Top villains,
They're the Joker to the TMNT. They're up there. Shredder, people think of Shredder, but I always put Krang right there, man. He's right.
Yeah.
He's right there.
He's the wild card.
Yeah, he's to me, dude, whenever I think he's right there. I put them on kind of even. That's why I was hyped for that last live action one, because they were finally going to have Krang.
Finally got Krang live action. Yeah, so big gooey bubblegum looking alien. I love what's Krang. Not to love about him?
I want to get him tattooed on me so bad. I just haven't done it yet.
Nice.
But yeah, let's dive into the two stories here. Let's dive into the comic. Okay. I'll spout out the titles of each one. Are we doing these people any disservice by not naming off the writers, Grimey? Should we give them a quick shout out here?
I can't pronounce half of them, but if you want to give it a shot, go ahead, man.
Real quick, story by Eric Burnham, art by Sarah Meyer and Dan Schoenigan, color, whatever that means, Luis Antonio Delgado, letters by Ed Derkeshire, editor Leah Check, senior editor Charles Beecham, editorial assistant Nick Nino, design and production Johanna Natali, There you go. Butchered everyone's name there.
I was going to say, you did a better job than I ever could have.
Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast, where we butcher names on a regular basis. I just feel like, got to shout them out. They're responsible for this comic. So,
yeah. Yep.
The two stories. Story one is called A Very Creepy Sequel. I think you can guess which story that is, because that's basically what this is. And the second story is called A Spirited Duel. A Spirited Duel is the second story. So the first story starts with the Turtles watching a slasher movie on Halloween night. And it involves one of my favorite things in this in this episode, and that's Hook Hand Mitch, who's basically and they're doing it again, a ripoff of, a Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers killer, but he's a giant fly wearing brown coveralls with hooks for hands and a chainsaw, and it's glorious.
It's pretty amazing.
Dude, I want to see a movie where we've got Creepy Eddie versus Hook Hand Mitch.
Hook Hand Mitch. Now, I'm not sure if they were going for this or not. It doesn't actually say anywhere, but I thought this was Bugman from the cartoon. Yeah. But it's slightly different. He's more of like a Mothman kind of thing. So he's an amalgamation of just a bunch of different horror icons. He's got the I Know What You Did Last Summer hooks, and then he's got the chainsaw from Jason. He's wearing like an orange jumpsuit too, which is kind of interesting.
With a name tag.
And he's a Mothman.
It says Mitch when you look at like the drawing.
It does. It's very interesting.
It's like a work jump. It's like he left work and he left the factory and he's going to fucking murder teenagers.
Murder a bunch of teens.
He does come back later in the comic too, which I was very happy to see. So it's not.
It was surprising.
I thought it was going to be a one-off joke right at the beginning, really brief, but he does pop back up later. So like always, Splinter reprimands the Turtles and gives them this whole spiel about fear and fear not hurting them but causing mistakes. Splinter is just being Splinter. Usual Splinter antics. Always berating the Turtles, always giving them shit. Splinter forces the Turtles to go out on Halloween and patrol the city. And while they're jumping the rooftops, like they always do, and complaining like they always do amongst each other about stuff, they come across our boy, Creepy Eddie, who at this point in the comic just materializes.
Right.
And swallows up the Turtles. And takes them to Nightmare Land.
Mm-hmm. So it's really strange how he comes out, and it kind of plays into his character and the whole the way he disappears, I guess. They're talking about him. They're talking about all the different monsters and stuff. And Don says that monsters aren't real. They're just Halloween people in Halloween costumes. And then Mikey's like, nah, man, we actually fought aliens and ghosts, and, what about that guy, Creepy Eddie? So they're actively talking about Creepy Eddie, and he just happens to appear, and he swallows the Turtles up. And it's weird because he breaks the fourth wall, and he says to the reader, hey, is there anything in my teeth? And smiles, and there's like a little, like a grappling hook from Mikey or whatever caught in his teeth, and he laughs, and then he disappears. And then we meet all the Turtles in Nightmare Land. It's goofy, but it's great.
Yeah. There's even a line where I think Creepy Eddie says that you have to say his name if you say his name 3 times on Halloween, that summons him. But the Turtles didn't say his name 3 times.
Not at all.
But I think in the comic, his name pops up 3 times. It's weird. So it's kind of like you said, breaking the fourth wall, and that's why Creepy Eddie is back.
Right. And he kind of speaks in riddles and puns, like we were talking about. And so he goes on to say, he's like, someone or everyone is someone. So that means that, you say it once, everybody said it once. So that more than 3 times, I guess. And it's very, very strange. But then this other character pops up behind him,
Yeah.
and he is his like attorney or whatever, and he's like, listen, man, don't make too many puns, and we don't want to draw too much attention to detail when it comes to anything that we could be sued for. He's like, keep it on the hush hush. And he pops up randomly throughout the entire comic book and like sets him straight.
His name is Phil. That's Eddie's
Phil.
lawyer, Phil. Just wanna
Yeah.
give. I've got his name right here because I'm a big fan of Phil in this. I love the way he just looks. He's kind of the same skin tone as Eddie. He's got like
Yeah.
this like faint purple
Weird
look.
blue.
Yeah, like this blue, purpley, light purple look with white hair, pointy fangs, these tiny glasses, and he always looks pissed off. And he's wearing a suit.
He does.
He just always looks angry. Hey, man. Most lawyers, I'm sure, are not happy. So there you go. Makes sense. But yeah, the deal in Nightmare Land with the Turtles and Eddie is that they have to escape by midnight or they're trapped there forever, which is what Eddie wants. But they have to use this yellow brick road and follow it. And if they get to the end of it before midnight, Eddie will leave them. They can escape. Eddie will let them go. And there's a lot of like copyright jokes too with Phil. At one point, he's like, "You can use yellow brick road, public domain." Like I do like that. Like there's certain things he's saying that he can't say. It's really smart and just kind of.
It is. It's a lot of fun. Like, and I think if they ever use this character more, they just have to keep going with that gimmick. It's so funny.
Yeah, and you know the banter with the Turtles watching Phil and Eddie interact is really, the Turtles are just being the Turtles at this case, you know, they're partying on dude and all that stuff to each other and just kind of cracking jokes on Eddie. It's funny because they're scared of Eddie but also don't take him serious, so I'm kind of confused.
Right.
Why are you guys so shook? You know,
It's very cartoony. Like the whole time, they're pretty much just goofing around.
Yeah.
And like, there's very small bits of like serious moments, but they don't last very long. It's very good. They did a very, very good job at adapting a cartoon into a comic book series, and just from this book alone, because I never read any of the other ones yet. So
yeah, and the whole pun thing with Eddie, you mentioned it. It does play into the ending, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
So the Turtles, they obviously, it's not as easy as Eddie's making it out to seem. They think, we just have to go down this yellow brick road and reach the end. Obviously not. There are several obstacles the Turtles have to overcome to get to the end of the yellow brick road, which include a pizza zombie.
Oh my God.
So good.
I'm gonna let you rattle off the characters, but I got a lot to say about the pizza zombies. Oh my God.
And I figured we're gonna stop here and talk about these creatures. So you've got the pizza zombie.
Yeah.
You've got the original founder of the Foot Clan, and here we go, more butchering. Shibano Sama.
That sounded pretty good. Yeah.
Close. And you've also got another character here who, and a lot of these characters, I believe are references. They are references and connections to other characters in the TMNT universe. But you've got a doctor by the name of, most creative name in the entire world. His name is Dr. Mad Science. That's his name.
Dr. Mad Science. I saw, what was it? I thought I saw Franken Turtle somewhere in there too.
It might have been, but I just remember seeing Dr. Mad Science. Maybe I missed it, but whatever. Maybe Dr. Franken Turtle too. Something's going on there. Who summons creatures. So these aren't the only monsters. You've got these kind of big bads they have to overcome. But the Dr. Franken Turtle, Dr. Mad Science, whatever, he also summons 4 other creatures, which are a werewolf, a Dracula, a mummy, and my boy from earlier in the episode, Hook Hand Mitch comes back.
Yeah, man.
And he kind of, the doctor summons these creatures because they're his mom. He's a mad scientist. He summons them on the Turtles. Basically, the Turtles have to fight all of these fucking monsters to get out of get out of this situation.
Yeah.
Dude, now correct me if I'm wrong. and I kind of brushed over some stuff because this is something I really love in this portion of the story of the comic. So the turtles interact when they reach because I know you want to talk about the pizza zombie. We're gonna get back to him in a second. But when the turtles reach the Universal Monsters, Dr. Frankenstein portion, that's Irma, right?
That's Irma.
Yes.
Yeah, Irma
Okay.
comes to get him.
Yes.
She wants she wants the turtles to come and help her friend May, who is actually April.
April,
And
yeah. So
Dr. Frankenturtle, or Mad Scientist, that's Baxter Stockman.
yeah, I love that, dude. I love how they were able to sneak all three of those characters into that like portion of the story.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was intentional because the other three don't really make any sense to me. The basically the Universal monster ripoff. So there's a werewolf. He's just a werewolf, and then there's a female Dracula, like a vampire type
Who's
character.
blonde? Is that a character? I was confused.
I have no idea. It kind of reminded me of Burnsy.
Okay,
Burns
yeah.
from like the news office or whatever. It reminds me of his woman.
So okay.
It might be, but then there's Mitch is obviously there, and the mummy, who it kind of has this striking resemblance to like a rat king.
That's what I thought, because in
was
my
wondering
notes,
if maybe it was him.
In my notes, I wrote that. I said, "Is the mummy supposed to be the Rat King?" Because the Rat King does have bandages, sort of. Like like on his head, I think, with his hair poking out. The original version. I don't know what the new version of Rat King looks like.
Right.
So I love how we're both on the same page as that, because I looked at that mummy and thought Rat King too.
Like, that's Rat King.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost immediately. And just not. It couldn't be anybody else.
No,
at all.
Of course not.
And that's kind of the Turtles' shtick. This cartoons thing is like drawing upon older characters. So like the two kids, or like the three kids in the beginning who were watching the horror movie or whatever, and there's like those three kids around the fire telling the stories. I read somewhere that that's actually the one kid, that Zach kid, the fifth turtle from the cartoon. It's his brother or whatever, and the one girl is his brother's girlfriend. So like these are all characters that are like part of the original cartoon. I'm
glad you mentioned that, because I completely brushed over that one page in the beginning kids are sort of telling the story at a campfire. It's really brief and doesn't really play into the rest of the comic.
Yeah, not at all. It's different, but
yeah,
we're happy that at least Mitch is brought back.
Yes, that's my boy Mitch, man. They need to do more with my man Hook Hand Mitch. But you want to talk about the pizza monster?
Yes, I absolutely have to talk about the pizza zombies. So
pizza zombie, yes, correct.
Yeah, they're just these little blobs of pizza, and they kind of remind me. I know we're going back to the Ghostbusters again, from the real Ghostbusters, but like there's a little figure that comes with, I think it's the Ray Stantz figure from the Fright Features line. And he's called Jail Jaw Ghost, and it's literally just this like little transparent red dude, and he has like a jail cell looking mouth, and you can see through him. That it reminded me of that almost immediately. These things are so fucking cool. Like, I need me a pizza zombie figure ASAP.
I do like that they cut him in half, and he's still coming at them too.
Just keeps going.
Because he's a slice of pizza, technically. He's not a living. Well, he's a living being, but if you think about it, you cut a pizza in half, and it's a zombie. Yeah. The second half will still attack you. Cheese,
and
sauce.
It's funny because, like we said, the turtles are just joking around. So Donnie's like, "Oh boy, I'm sure that's what pizza feels like when Mikey's in the room or whatever."
Yeah, you're right. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that's a good one too. With listen, and it makes sense. The turtles love pizza. Have a pizza monster. You know what character I'm surprised didn't make an appearance somewhere in here? The Xenomorph ripoff, the yellow meatball.
The actual pizza monsters.
I'm surprised they didn't squeeze them, because they would make a good addition, like a
missed
Halloween.
Opportunity.
Yeah, somewhere in here, even like a little reference to them, maybe like their head or something popping out, because they're the original pizza creatures in the world of Ninja Turtles.
So then there's another, I guess we'll call it a demon kind of thing, and it's the original founding member or whatever Foot Clan founding member, and that's Shibano Sama. So, and there's a little bit of banter between them. He's technically not the originator, but he is. Like, there's some kind of weird thing going on between the turtles
retconned it, I guess, in a different timeline, which I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with even the founder of the Foot Clan's name, if I'm being honest. So
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's not him. And like somewhere in between the cartoon is what they like bring him into it randomly. But so yeah, he's just like this ghostly figure that shapeshifts into this big bony crab kind of thing.
So random.
This is where Splinter's little pep talk in the beginning comes into. He talks about fear and how fear can't hurt you, but it can make you do mistakes that will hurt you in the long run. So Leo, being the leader, he's like, no, we're not supposed to run from our path. We have to stick to it. And the turtle's like, well, what the fuck? There's like this giant crab monster in front of us. What do we do? And he's like, well, we can avoid this. It's like, he never said that we had to fight him. He just said that we had to, stay away from him, basically. And they managed to get away, and they stay on the yellow brick road. So that was,
they like flip him over on his back or something, right? They flip him over.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. It's very comical.
It's so silly. It's great though. But that's basically like a good chunk of this story is just the turtles interacting with all these creatures and having to fight them. That's
It's all about the lesson. That's it. It's all about Splinter's lesson.
If you think about it, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. They want to get back. It's literally the Wizard of Oz. They're instead of kind of meeting these allies along the way, they're really meeting these enemies along the way that they have to defeat in order to escape. But in the end, at the very end,
yes,
the turtles defeat all of these creatures. And what ends up happening is Creepy Eddie's being a dick to them, like he has been the entire episode, not episode, but comic episode. It's like an episode. Dude, it feels like an episode. But the entire story, Creepy Eddie's, giving them shit. He's full of shit. He's trying to trick them out of going back home. But what they do is they realize that puns are Creepy Eddie's kryptonite. And they start kind of egging him on to spout out all these dumb puns, which triggers Phil the lawyer to reemerge and banish Creepy Eddie into the ground.
Yeah, I was confused by that too. He just kind of like picks him up and it just like throws him into the ground. And then it's just like, it's over.
Yeah.
And Phil's like, that's that, I guess. See you later. The turtles are like, hey, can you like send us back? Well, why would I do that? He's like, well, that would be the biggest punishment for Creepy Eddie is knowing that we got away. He's like, yep, okay, and does it.
That's it.
That's pretty much it.
And then it literally ends with Happy Halloween, wink. I forget.
I do
what turtle is
really
it?
Love
I forget
that,
which one does it. Is it
Donatello, he's like making this really lame pun at the end where he's like says something about punishment, and Raph is like whatever and just kind of winks at the reader, says Happy Halloween. I love that closeout. I don't know why, but it just felt really good,
I feel every good Halloween special for the most part should end with kind of a wink and a Happy Halloween to the audience, or something to happen where Happy Halloween is said in a way where it's like wishing everyone that. And this story ends with that. So I love that. It fits the holiday perfectly in a way. Like, dude, this is what, when you think of the Ninja Turtles, the original show, and you think of kind of any episode, and the original, obviously this is a sequel to the Creepy Eddie, the original episode on the show. Them using Halloween as a way to bring him back and then involving the holiday in that way, and that the turtles just want to celebrate Halloween and not deal with this shit, and they get stuck because Splinter forces them on Halloween night, was just a bad idea to begin with. And look what happens. They get sent to Nightmare Land. I love that. I love that they were able to tie in the holiday in a way, because they technically didn't have to. They could have just had it that the turtles.
No, not at all. They could have just done whatever. But yeah, they tied it in. And I'm glad that they did, because there's a lot of like we said before, there's a lot of stuff that the Ninja Turtles did appear in that would really kind of it falls into the category of like the spooky season, Halloween season, but there's never really been any Halloween things, you know what I mean? Like where they're actually in a Halloween setting. There was a couple of books, and it was like through the Archie series where there was like some monsters and stuff and Halloween stuff involved, but like everything else, like comic wise especially, it's just been covers or like stuff that like, you know, a figure that appeared as a monster or whatever. And I believe this is the only other thing aside from those few Archie books that it's like a Halloween setting. So like it's very appreciated, and I'm really surprised it took this long to get to this. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, sometimes you think about it and you're like, why didn't this whatever show, you know, sitcom get a Halloween special when that's probably one of the easier things to write a story. Like to plug any character in a situation that's around Halloween or Halloween setting, because you can use horror, you can use the holiday, you can use anything. And this comic was sort of able to pull from different things, from the holiday, from a previous episode, and from horror, and kind of mash it all together, because you've got the Universal Monsters, you got Freddy Krueger, you've got jack-o'-lanterns, you've got zombies, you've got literally a bunch of shit, you know, that has to do with Halloween. And it's great, dude. It's just overall the way they presented this was awesome. I hope they do it again. You know, we're gonna get into the second story in a bit because that one's a bit shorter. But this one is fantastic, dude. Just overall, you know, I was worried when I was reading it. I was like, oh, is this gonna be kind of stupid and dumb? But when I saw it was a sequel to the previous episode, I was like, oh, they're gonna kill it with this, and they did. I do not regret buying this comic.
Not at all. Yeah, one thing I hate is like when Halloween comes around, Turtles is obviously one of my favorite franchises, so I don't have that thing to like throw Turtles into the season, and like now I kind of do. And I almost wish it was a cartoon episode just because it feels very like TGIF vibey, you know what I mean? Like that old sitcom vibe where it's just goofy and fun and campy, and like this is the perfect shoe-in for that. And I don't know. Yeah, I hope it goes somewhere. I hope they do continue to do this or do something else with it. Like this, it's a really fun little story.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you know what? You're right. It would make for a great kind of animated. Like they should just. I can see them maybe doing it not with the old cartoon, but maybe with these new. Because I know the Mutant Mayhem film is getting a series on Paramount Plus, so maybe we'll get a Halloween special or Halloween episode with that new version of the characters. I could see that happening maybe in the future. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the next one, man.
So, story 2, A Spirited Duel, is about half the length of this first story.
Oh yeah, if that. It's very short, but it's good.
And I appreciate it, like I said earlier, because of the characters they used. So the story transports us as the readers to Dimension X with all these people are our boys, Shredder and Krang. Krang is being Krang and Shredder is being Shredder, literally in this story. It's Halloween night, and before I go any further, I love that we're seeing what Shredder and Krang are doing on Halloween night. Dude. I love that as a concept, and like as characters, Shredder and Krang would not celebrate Halloween at all. But somehow they do accidentally. Like, I love that. Like,
they use it for a very interesting activity.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's really cool.
Of all days to do what you want to do, Shredder, you choose Halloween. Yeah. Quite the coincidence there. But yeah, it's Halloween night, and basically Shredder and Krang are trying to crack open this meteor. It's like
this little meteorite piece.
It's like a stone ball. They're trying to get into it with different tools, lasers, all their mechanisms. Because again, Dimension X, Shredder, Krang, they have access to all these crazy contraptions that they're trying to
gadgets
use
and stuff. Yeah, so the idea is they want to forge this little piece of meteorite into a sword because it's very, very hard. It's an alien kind of meteorite thing, and it's got some good energy, but no human tools will crack it.
Yeah, and they want to, and the sword is to cut through space and time. That's what they want this sword
Hell
for.
yeah.
So it plays into their villainous ways. They want to, obviously the turtles will have to come into play if they get their hands on this sword, which is kind of what this episode is. It's showing you what Shredder and Krang are doing leading up to. It's like a slice of life story with these villains trying to, because whenever you watch the turtle episodes, they kind of already usually have the contraption they're trying to use. This sword is what will, this is them getting to that point, which is amazing.
It is, yeah. It gives a little depth to these characters. It's nice.
Again, just kind of like a slice in the. It's like a 2-hour period with Krang and Shredder and them just figuring this shit out. And it's only the two of them, no Bebop, no Rocksteady.
Yeah, it was a really interesting thing there. Like I said, I haven't read any other ones, so I don't know if they come into play at all yet. But I appreciate just this one-off with them too. There,
no body. It's like just Krang being Krang too. He's not in the body. It's just him on his little leg kind of apparatus. So yeah, trying to cut into this stone, into this meteor. Shredder gets the idea of summoning a spirit from the spirit world using, I guess, this like reading he has and a summoning candle.
Yeah, you got this magic candle on Halloween night with a full fucking moon. Like, how perfect is this?
Perfect. Shredder knows what's up. He's in the spirit. He's setting the right ambiance for Halloween night. So Shredder summons this master swordsmith who emerges in this puff of smoke after he reads from this incantation. And basically, Shredder being Shredder is a dick to the swordsmith and demands that the swordsmith that's a mouthful.
That's a hard one. It was. Yeah.
Smith. He demands that the swordsmith use his powers to shape the meteor and create this thing that they want. The swordsmith isn't playing this shit, and he's offended by what Shredder's telling him. And basically, he's got a beef with Shredder now. He's like, "Fuck you! I'm not doing this. You could kiss my ass." That's not what he says, but that's what Louis says.
Yeah, and he knows Shredder. He actually recognizes Shredder as a thief. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, why would I want to help you guys? You guys are thieves." He's like, "Actually, you know what? Fuck that."
Yes.
And then he starts possessing stuff in the layer. So there's like a refrigerator that has legs, and it's like walking around and. Krang is freaking out about his yogurt being inside of it. Man,
his fridge.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like the like street level version of what Krang and Shredder go through. Like, it's so funny, dude. It's fucking amazing. And there is a really weird thing too, because at one point there's like a panel in the comic where Shredder's holding up a sword trying to fight back these objects, and the sword grows limbs. Like arms.
Yeah, very strange.
And there's like this light kind of over every piece of article in the lab. Strange shit. So Shredder grabs a blaster. He's like, "Oh, I've got the right thing for this," and I'm just in my mind while I'm reading this, I'm hearing Shredder's voice, and he starts.
I love how he's just prepared. By the way, where he's just like, "No, man, I got this blaster, this laser gun that just." Will depossess all these objects, and like he does that very strangely prepared.
Yeah, he's not taking and it makes sense too. He's not taking any shit. Once again, not intimidated by the swordsmith. Similar to the Turtles not being scared of Eddie, Shredder and Krang are not really. They're just annoyed more than anything by the swordsmith, the spirit of the swordsmith. So he shoots all the items. Ha ha ha. I got you. You don't have shit on us. We can destroy all these things. So the swordsmith's like, "All right, you think this is all I've got up my sleeve?" And what he does is he summons a
like a shadow version.
shadow demonic spirit of it's Leonardo, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it's like an evil version, complete with red eyes, complete darkness. There's like this aura thing around him.
Oh yeah,
And
it's cool, man.
it's cool. It's an evil turtle, basically.
Yeah, it's like the ghosts from Ghost, where it's just like a black shadowy figure of this person. It's really cool.
And Shredder has to fight this turtle. He's basically using the turtle to fight Shredder, and Shredder begins to battle him, but Shredder's having some problems because, you know, Shredder's a master fucking kung fu guy villain. He's having trouble because it's a ghost, so he can't hit what can't be hit. His arms, his fist, his kicks go right through the turtle. So what happens? Shredder grabs the meteor that's on, I think it falls off a table because shit's getting thrown all over the place, and he uses it to shield himself from being cut by the evil turtle's sword. Like basically the sword hits the meteor.
He blocks a blow.
Yeah, that's it. Because I think right there would have been the end of... I love how an evil turtle is what would have almost killed Shredder, if you notice. So, interesting choice there. They found Shredder's weakness, an evil, demonic turtle. But yeah, the turtle hits the meteor, which causes the chemistry of the meteor to change into like this gold metal.
Changes the energy of it. So he cracked it, and now this spirit's like, wow, yeah, this could be made into like the best sword ever, but I'm not going to do it because I hate you guys and I've wasted all your time, so now this candle is dwindling. It's pretty much out, and I'm not going to help you.
He's got a moral code. That's basically what the swordsmith has.
That too, yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I won't allow you guys to do all these evil doings, even though he helped them and didn't even realize. Like, he still fucking helped them because the story ends with Shredder and Krang being able to now get to the material they need because the stone around it is gone. The swordsmith goes away, like you said, Grimey. The candle's done, so the spirit that was conjured has to leave. And it ends with them building this sword that they've been wanting to make, and Krang wanting yogurt first. They have to go out and get yogurt before they continue on their night building this sword. And it's great. Not a lot of Halloween-ness in this segment.
No, not
but it's
really.
Still great.
This really didn't need it for what it was. Like the spirit being conjured, I think that really was the icing on the cake. I really love that they did that. But I'd like to comment. Earlier, you said something about Shredder and Krang being like the couple.
Yeah.
And in this, especially, it's just like a couple bickering back and forth. And I'd like to point out that Krang is probably the female version.
Yes.
Because, like, he's, scared for his yogurt being gone. But he's also very, like, witty and funny towards Shredder, where at the end, he's like, yeah, so that guy's got, like, a moral code. Did you notice? It's, like, implying that Shredder has no moral code. And it's just nice little quip towards Shredder. It's funny.
Krang's sassy.
He is. He's a sassy little bitch. It's funny.
He is a sassy little bitch in this. It's so good, dude. That's what I like about it, dude. Just the kind of the two of them, and Krang doesn't really interact with anything else. He's kind of just watching this all happen from a distance.
Pretty much.
Like
watching it all unfold.
Shit's flying around and he's trying to kind of brush it off, but he's telling Shredder like, "Nah, dude, this isn't working." It's so good, man. And I love how they packaged it with this story. Very anthology,
Yeah, I loved it.
And again, me kind of brushing over that first kind of panel, the first story with the kids, comes off that way. I almost wish this was a little longer and had a third story.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that would have been pretty awesome. Like the classic anthology would have been a nice touch. But for what it is, it's... man, it did way more than I ever thought it was going to. Like, I was with you there. Like, I'm not sure how really good this is going to be, but it ended up blowing all of my expectations out the water. Like, it's good. It's a good story, and it's one that I can easily read over and over again during the season.
Yeah, and thinking about it and thinking about kind of just hopefully they do this again next year. You know what would make a really good story for this?
What's that?
Bebop and Rocksteady trying to go out trick or treating.
See, before you even said it, as soon as you said Bebop and Rocksteady, that was exactly what was coming to my mind. It's like just two fumbling like big kids, trying to make it happen. And that would be pretty awesome.
They can go out and like attempt to wear costumes, but their actual appearance, like let's say Bebop tries to dress up as like a witch or something, right? But it's still, he'll look like a witch, but just himself with the witch outfit. Yeah. And in his eyes, he's like, oh, look, I'm trick-or-treating. And like they go on this like trick-or-treating adventure and everyone's just kind of like, oh, whatever. Just assuming that they're kids dressed up in costume.
Yeah, and not mutants.
Yes. This is a lot, dude. This Halloween special and just these comics, whatever. They can't, obviously they're not going to make animated, series or specials that we can watch.
Sure.
But if they continue doing this every year, and again, I don't know logistics. I don't know if this was a hit. I have no idea.
Right.
This is something I can see annual. This can just happen every year. And we'll find out soon enough, Grimey, when we do our our anticipated Halloween stuff for 2024, if they're going to announce another special, which I, knock on wood, I really hope they do. Is this still relatively easy to find? Like, is it not $50 now on eBay, like copies of this?
Oh, man, I'm not sure exactly about the pricing. I would imagine some of the other covers are pretty easy to get.
Some are definitely harder than others.
Yeah, like the only one that's going to be super expensive is that Universal Monster crossover cover. That's just... It's sold out very, very quickly. I was actually going to buy it, and then I went to go buy it, and it was gone already. And I was like, well, I saved myself $100, so no big deal. But yeah, I would imagine you could probably get this pretty easy on like eBay, or even like there's a comic book site called thingsfromanotherworld.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely check that out, because you could probably score a copy there.
Funny story here to kind of wrap up the episode and how I got the comics. So there's a comic book store here in New York. If you're from New York and you're listening, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you're from New York City, I should say, because maybe you live upstate, you maybe don't know what I'm about to talk about. But New York City, there's a store called Forbidden Planet. And it's near Union Square. Planet. It's a very, maybe people not, Grimey, you don't live in New York. And
I've heard of it.
And you've heard even of Forbidden Planet. Very kind of famous comic book store. I used to go there a lot when I hung out my younger years. When I was in my early 20s, I used to hang out in the East Village, West Village a lot. That was my spot. I used to go to bars, hang out in the streets, do all kinds of wild stuff when I was when I was not a child, but when I was a younger man. And Forbidden Planet was one place we frequented. I always, frequently was there. I would always walk in, pick up comics, pick up figures, pick up t-shirts, graphic t-shirts, stuff like that. And I don't go as much because I'm rarely in that area nowadays, considering, when comparing it to when I was younger, I was always there. Now I'm rarely there. And I actually bought this from their website. I picked up my copy from the website. I was like, you know what? Because you had sent me the link to the website, the Thing from Another World. And I was like, oh, I'll buy it there. But then I saw that Forbidden Planet has their website. Man,
I'm going right in my backyard.
I was like, I'll just show Forbidden Planet some love, and I bought the comic from there. So I was like, I'll tell that story here just because I think it'd be a fun little antidote to just add to the episode. And I think I think next time, this might not be the last time we do, a Halloween inspired comic. Maybe we'll do one again in the future. If you dig Grimey and I diving into these Halloween comics, please let us know in comments and all that good stuff. Definitely let us know, because this is the first time we're doing this. So
this is a fun one to start it off with.
For sure. Next time I'll go into the store physically and buy my comic. Very of the time that I was too lazy to get up and go to a comic store and pick up a comic book. But next time I'll make sure I don't do that. I'm not as lazy. Don't be lazy, Louis. Because I've got other comics. Even though comic book stores are few and far between these days in New York City, funny enough, there's actually one not that far from me that I should go to more frequent, but I don't. But yes, any closing thoughts, Grimey, on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2023 Halloween special comic?
No, man, other than just read it if you haven't, because it's a trip, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot if you're a fan of the Turtles, or if you just... an avid knower of turtle things. I think you'll like it. It's fun.
Yeah. It's the perfect Halloween read. And, I think you're right. I think one night, like you mentioned, just sit back, open it up, maybe play some creepy music in the background, and just read it. It's perfect. It's perfect for like quick read too. You'll be there for 20 minutes. It's not that long. It's not a long read.
No, it's not.
But
it's fun,
it'll
though.
definitely add to your Halloween evening any October. So that was the TMNT 2023 Halloween special comic. Grimey, where can people find you and Leftover Pizza?
As far as I know, you can listen to us on pretty much all the major platforms. Wherever you get your podcast, you could find us over at our website, leftoverpizzaclub.com, and social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have a little Facebook club. Just type in Leftover Pizza Podcast, and you're bound to find us.
And be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com for links to everything, including our Patreon page, which is the best way to support us and features bonus spooky content. Rate and review us. That'd be greatly appreciated. And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
more booze.
Cowabunga.
It's pizza time.